Okay, so we're going to do our first program. I'm not going to talk too much about it as I do it. Uh, just follow along and we'll talk about it more in class or maybe at the end of the video. So first we start Visual Studio Express for desktops. Now we always work with projects when we're using Visual Studio. Visual Studio is an interactive development environment, and it does a lot more for us than just compile. It manages an entire project. So we'll create a project, and within that project we'll create a CPP, a source code file that will compile and become a program that we can run. Okay, so I'm going to select from the menu bar, File, New Project, and the first time you do it, these disclosure arrows will be closed, so I'll just close them, and then I'll go into Installed, Templates, Visual C++, and I'm going to create an empty project. Now I have to go down here and give the project a name. So this project I'm going to call gameOver. And I can also give it a location. I just click on this browse button and you can browse to where you want it to be. I have a network folder that I put all of my stuff class by class in. Probably a project folder on your desktop would be a good place for you. Now I like to click this, Create Directory for Solutions. Your solution or project, Visual Studio kind of refers to them interchangeably as either a solution or a project. Your solution or project is going to be in one folder anyways, and what this does is just kind of organize it better with, just add some subfolders to organize it. And I click OK, and it's going to create my project. I get this message because I'm putting it on a network drive. Okay, so it pops up my project. Here I have what's called the Solution Explorer, and because I created an empty project, I don't have any files yet. I have to add them. So I can right-click on, here's my project name, gameOver. If I right-click on that and then go down to Add, and I want to add an item. And then again, we've got these disclosure triangles. So if I go to Installed, Visual C++, and just a C++ file. And I come down here, by default it just calls it source.cpp. I'm going to call it Go. It'll add the .cpp suffix. So .cpp is a way of letting us know that that's a C++ file. And the other kind of file we can create here is a .h file. That's a header file, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Notice I just typed Go, but because it is a C++ file, it created a file called GoCpp in my Solution Explorer here under my source file folder, and it opened it up in my editor. So I'm going to type a few things quickly. I'm just going to paste in these comments. We'll talk more about this in class, but we're going to have a standard set of comments that we call it a comment header that goes at the top of the file. And now I can start my program. So all C++ programs, this is going to look pretty cryptic and magical at first. It's int space main open close parenthesis. And we go to a new line and we do an open curly bracket. And just go down a few and do a close curly bracket. And that main should be a lowercase, not an uppercase. I don't know how that happened. So all C++ programs start with a function called main that returns an integer. So we have to end this by using this method, return 0. Because this is a function that returns an integer, I've promised to return a number, and so I'll do that at the end of my program. Now all I want to do in this program is write a message to the console or to standard out. In order to do that, I have to use something from the standard library. There's nothing in the core C or C++ that allows me to write to a file. I have to call a library function. And in order to use library functions, I have to use this include statement to tell the compiler that I'm going to be using these functions that are in the library, so the compiler knows it can link to those functions later on. and it puts everything together. So I say pound, well, I'll call this pound, or it's also known as a hashtag. You probably know it better as hashtag from, that's from Twitter. It's gotten very popularly called hashtag, but in programming we usually call it pound. So pound include, and the set of functions or set of objects I'm going to use are IO stream objects. Okay, so the first object I'm going to use is called cout, and we put this std : that says it's cout from the standard library. I use the two arrows to the left as an operator, so that says I'm going to send, the operator is used to send something to the cout object. So cout is an object that when I send things to it, it writes them on the standard output, which in our case is the console. And I'm just going to write a string, game over. The normal first program that people learn to write, they say hello, they print out hello world. I thought we'd just switch it up a little bit and say game over. And then all statements in C end with a semicolon, so just like after the return 0, I have to put a semicolon here. And that's going to print to standard out game over. And now, just in order for us, when we run this under debug, it's going to open up a window, run it, and then close the window. And in order to hold the window open so that we can see what's happened, just before that return statement, I'm going to run this get char, which you don't even have to worry about it. We'll learn what it means later. For now, we're just going to put it at the end to keep the window open for us. So that's my whole program. I'm going to now build it, so that runs the compiler. The compiler turns it into object code, and then it's going to have to link it. Because I'm using this object from the library, my object code has to be linked with the library object code and put them together to make one executable, which can then be loaded. And I can look down at the bottom here, I see these messages. My build was successful, so I can go ahead and run it. I'm going to click debug and start without debugging. Okay, and a console is going to open up, and it just prints out game over, and that's it. So that is our first program. You can run that again. It says game over, and when I hit return, what happens is that the way that get char works is it's waiting for me to hit return. And when I hit return, then it's finished waiting, and it just goes on to the next step, which in this case is return 0, the end of the program. So all our program does, we have this int main, which says this is the beginning of our program, these curly braces, which contain the body of the program, and then the first statement is this string being sent to the output object, and that object takes it and puts it out on the standard out. This statement just causes it to wait until I hit enter, and then we're finished. And that's it.